Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the Ted Show. I have one of my favorite people on the show today. It's Nef Rodriguez. He's with Camaraderie Foundation. You're going to hear about Nef and his journey. And it is June, so that is PTSD Awareness Month. If you've heard about it, PTSD is a buzzword, but it's so much more than that. A lot of our veterans, many people suffer from PTSD, and we'd love to bring awareness to that and what that looks like and how you can be more informed. Welcome back, Nef. How are you today?
Oh, glad to be here. Appreciate you having us back on. It's been a while, but we're still here.
A while. But you look the same. We both have hair. We talked about that earlier. Very thankful for that. All right, my friend, before we take a deep dive into Camaraderie Foundation and PTSD Awareness Month, tell them a little bit about you. They love the journey. They want to know how you got from point A to this point right here.
Wow, well, at my age, that's a long journey. But, I've always been interested in the military, even as a young child. I was always in a uniform in some fashion, whether it was Cub Scouts and then Boy Scouts and then ROTC. And, so I came from a military family. My father was Air Force veteran. And so I just kind of naturally gravitated towards that. And so immediately right out of high school, I went straight into the Army. I did 6 years enlisted, got out, used my Vietnam GI Bill, went to LSU. I got my commission. And then turned around, went right back in as an officer. And eventually I retired after 33 years in the Army.
Thank you, by the way. I say that heartfeltly. So tell us what is Camaraderie Foundation? I know about it, obviously, because you've been on the show several times. It's interesting because we do the shows, and every time I get the, oh my God, Ted, I didn't know about Camaraderie Foundation. So educate us.
Okay. Well, the Camaraderie Foundation is really a well-kept secret, and we're trying to break out of that mold. What we do is we help provide healing for the invisible wounds of war. And our mission has changed now. It used to be for post 9/11 veterans, but now it's for all veterans, service members, and their families. So we treat everyone. And so that's a big change from the last time I was on with you. And that's because we've gotten larger. We're starting to get more corporate sponsors. And so we're able to take care of all veterans now. And that's a good thing for us. And so we treat them for those invisible wounds of war. We have 3 pillars that we use. And that's because those are the 3 things that are issues that face veterans when they come home. The first pillar is, of course, mental health and suicide prevention. And that's because that's the biggest one that veterans face. Yes. So we provide in that pillar, we provide mental health counseling, we provide individual counseling, marital counseling, family counseling, and all of our services are absolutely free to the veterans, service members, and their families.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So the second issue that they face in the second pillar is what we call transition services. So, when they get out of the military and they try to come home and try to adapt to that civilian life, like in my case, like I did, it is a very stressful period on top of everything else that you've got going on, and you struggle with it. I know when I got out, they were telling me, oh yeah, there's jobs out there waiting on you, and the community just can't wait to see you. And, it took me 2 to 3 years to figure out what it was I wanted to be at when I grew up. And then, what could my skills get me in the civilian world? And
right.
So trying to translate that for the veteran. So we help them with that pillar. And then the third pillar is what we call family support services, which is that relationship that you have when you're in the military with other military families. And so we do things together. We barbecue, we grill, we go to movies. When we deploy, the wives all hang together. But when you get out and you come home back to Orlando, the guy that's in apartment 3C upstairs could really care less what you're doing this weekend, or if your wife's car broke down and you're out of town, with your job. And so you lose that connection, or what we call camaraderie.
Yes.
And so we try to bring that back to the families and the children, because they lose it too, when they lose all their little buddies from school and when they've been transferred along with. And so we bring them back together. We go barbecues, we do beach days, we go to SeaWorld, we'll go to Busch Gardens. So we always do some type of activity to bring them all back together. And then we can pair them with battle buddies. And we're all familiar with that in the military, because we always have a battle buddy that helps look after you to make sure, you're drinking your water, you're changing your socks, is your weapon clean, and all those details that keep you alive. And so we pair them up with a battle buddy. And so those are the three pillars that we have to solve the three issues that veterans have.
And the suicide, it's 22 a day on average, although I'm told that number has gone up statistically,
yes.
Which is
and you really, when you talk to people and ask them what they don't understand, is only 26 states report whether a suicide is a veteran or not. Jeez. So, you think of all those other states, and I would tell you California and Texas, which are one of the two largest states, Florida's the third largest, they don't report whether it's a veteran or not. So, you're not even capturing those.
It's epidemic for a lot of reasons, and we're going to talk about PTSD in a minute because it's a PTSD Awareness Month. The transition part, I cannot talk about it enough, because I think as a civilian, I didn't grow up military. My grandfather was World War II, but that was the closest that I had to understanding anything military. We don't understand the camaraderie, like you said before. There is a structure and a trust level in the military that you obviously do not find out in the real world. You mentioned it earlier. The guy up in 3C doesn't give two hoots of what you did and what you're going to do. And you're just another apartment dweller to him. And so it's so important when you all get out. Every veteran that I've ever spoken to has said, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't have that structure or that trust anymore. And it's taken me from the show a very long time to get veterans to trust me enough to share their journey here. And rightly so. I wasn't in it. I can say it, I can speak it, I can empathize with it, but I haven't lived it. And so there's that natural, hey, you don't know what I went through. But the structure and the skill set you mentioned earlier, you all are so trained, and a lot of times you have very specific training that you would think would totally, when you come out, you'd be able to translate that into a job like it, but it's not that easy. And so it's a very difficult time for a lot of veterans, and not just veterans, but their families. Because like you said, the families are used to being around the same people they're used to their kids grow up, and it's a very tight knit, trusting group of people. And the real world just sadly isn't like that. So when they come out and what's the best thing that a civilian like me, somebody who wants to help and give back, how can we do better for you all when you're coming out and you're looking for that job and you're looking for that camaraderie?
Our transition program is really good at doing that. And always we can use people who want to mentor. And then we, excuse me, that's what we do. We have individuals who mentor. So we'll pair a veteran or the veteran's spouse, because we also let spouses join the program. They go through it, and we pair them with two successful business leaders out of the community. And we take them through a year-long course to prepare them. And it's not so much as prepare them for a career, but it's like you said, let's take those skills. What is it that you need as an individual veteran to translate into the civilian world? What is it that you're missing? And so we'll pair them and we'll take them through, how do you network? How do you prepare your resume? Sit down and let's look at, what did you do in the military? Let's talk about that. And then, okay, what is it that career-wise that you're looking for going into? And then how can we translate those things and bring them together? An infantry guy has a lot of great skills besides just marching around and killing people, which is, that's what everybody wants to think of the infantry. But they have organization skills. They have leadership skills. They have planning. They have logistics. So there's all kinds of skills that they really don't understand. They can't conceptualize that. Oh, okay, this goes with this. And so when we pair them up with those mentors, and we take them through these courses, then the mentor is able to pull that information and say, oh, so you do know about a supply chain then? Oh, yeah. I had a supply room and I ordered the parts. And so you knew how to keep that stuff stocked. Oh, yeah, we had to have, so those kind of things start coming out in the conversation. One of the unique things that I really like about our mentor leadership program is that in most cases, these individuals, the veterans, end up being hired by the very people who are mentoring them. Yeah. Because after a year time of being together, it just seems to naturally gravitate that, the guy says, hey, I got an opening and you're perfect. Come on.
And I think first of all, the mentoring is beautiful because there are, hey guys, you guys are always asking me, how can I get involved? How can you give back to my military? I want you to, our veterans, I want you to reach out to Nef and his team, because so many business owners ask me, they say, you've got so many great people on there, Ted, what can we do? Here is an opportunity for you to get involved. Before we move to PTSD Awareness Month, Nef, after 33 years, you retire, you transition out to civilian life.
Right.
First go round, what was that like? Were you as lost as somebody who had only done it after 4 years or 6 years? Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do? Were the services readily available when you did? What was it like for you?
I struggled with it immensely. And I think what the main reason was because I went in at such a young age. I was 17 when I went in.
Wow.
And so I was in my late 40s when I retired after 33 years. So, and what happened was the sergeant major walked in one day and he said, sir, we can't pay you anymore. You've maxed out. At that time, pay was capped at 30 years. Well, I'd already passed that 3 years ago. And so I was working for free, in essence. And he said, we can't pay you anymore. And the light came on. And I hadn't even thought about leaving. I was still young to me, 49. I'm like, I don't want to leave. And so I was like, well, I guess I better go find another career. And so I turned in my retirement papers. Well, I had not prepared. I had no clue. I didn't know what I wanted to do. My degrees in criminal justice served me no good because I was already past the age for any law enforcement agency. Right. The federal, I always wanted to be in the FBI. That wasn't going to work. They were wasted. And so I kind of drifted around a little bit for the first year. I ended up going back as a contractor with the Department of Defense just because I fell back on what I knew, which was military operations and training. So I went to Afghanistan for 7 years.
Jeez.
And spent 7 years in Afghanistan training the Afghan Army. And so eventually the Taliban put a bounty on me. And I had to come.
Nef, I didn't know that part. I think I knew everything up to that part.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But so after 7 years, then you're still back out, right? You're touching on it. You're still touching the military. You're still using that skill set that you learned in there.
Right. And still using, everything that I was, and still being basically exactly what I was, which was an Army officer. Training troops, but I was doing it for the Afghan Army. And so, like I said, the Taliban put a bounty on me. The company I was working for, DynCorp, said, we can't risk having you killed on TV, a video. So we're just going to call your contract complete and send you home. And so again, here I was with no plan, no future goal. And what am I going to do? I was fortunate in that this company had this position open when I came back. And so, again, I gravitated towards my soldiers and my troops that I knew so well. But this time is different because this time I am doing it from the civilian side of the house, but I'm helping them get better and I'm saving their lives and saving their families. And so it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And there's nothing else I want to do now.
Love it. All right. So let's dive into PTSD Awareness Month. So PTSD, they've shifted a little bit to just saying PTS. And
Yeah, the political correctness is they're trying to take the term disorder out. Yeah. That is not a disorder. I mean, you know, you can call a rose by any other name, it's still a rose.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I want to let people know, we've talked about it on the show before, people associated with military, and that's really primarily where you see it. I'm a PTS, diagnosed PTS survivor, domestic violence, childhood abuse survivor. And so you can experience that. And so PTS Awareness Month is so critical because it still has an interesting stigma to it. There's still a lot of people who don't understand what that actually means and what you go through. So let's talk about the basics, if you don't mind educating them on what PTS kind of exhibits itself as and what it is.
Exactly. And you can get, like you said, you can get PTSD from any traumatic experience that you've been through, whether it's a car accident, you know, an assault, or anything that's traumatic to you can trigger PTSD. So you don't have to be in a war zone. And some of the signs that everyone needs to be looking out for is, you know, people are isolating themselves, they get withdrawn, you know, the irritability, you know, just hair trigger going off. The depression is another one. And so if you keep a look on those signs, and you can probably tell there's something going on. Not everyone will reach out and get help. Like you said, you know, us big Army guys, we don't like to admit we need help, you know, because we're fully capable of taking care of ourselves. We're taught the whole career to, you know, suck it up and let's go. Right. And so I would encourage everyone that, you know, okay, well, let's suck it up, but let's suck it up and ask for help.
Yes.
You know, there is no, you know, as you point out, stigma. There is no stigma in asking someone for help. I would rather you ask me for help than commit suicide.
Correct, because that's where it often leads to. It is a, you know, night terrors was something that was for me. And I think that if you know anybody who's experiencing that because of something traumatic that happened, bringing awareness to it and not trying to pigeonhole it either into one particular mental health diagnosis. Sure. And it manifests itself in different ways for different people, depending on the different circumstances that create it. I have triggers that as I've gotten older, it's much easier for me to deal with, but it's still there. You know it's there. Now, what you do with it and how your family handles it or your loved ones handle it and how you figure out how to minimize the triggers as much as possible and lead as much of a normal life as you possibly can is where the awareness and the services come in. It's so important. All of us, I think, men in general, of course, are terrible overall asking for help for anything. But the military, like you said, you are taught to just suck it up, buttercup, and you've got to move it along. And it's so important to not bury that, because I promise you at some point it will rear its ugly head in some way, shape, or form.
And you'll take it out on your family, or you'll take it out on your children. And then that's going to make you feel even worse, because you know that you didn't mean to do that.
Yes.
And so you feel even worse about yourself. And so, you know, one of the things is that we need to make sure everyone understands is that there is no cure for PTSD.
No. Because
PTSD, as you said, is a reaction to a memory or traumatic event that you went through. The only way that you never cure that is to do away with the memory and the event, and that we don't know how to do that yet.
No, we don't.
So we're not going to be able to cure. You're always going to have that memory. You're always going to have those triggers. The key is to teaching you how to cope with it and deal with it in a positive manner rather than in a negative fashion, where you take it out on family members, you take it out on yourself, try to harm yourself, or you use alcohol to cope, or you use other drugs, you know, to help. So we try to teach you the positive ways of how. Number one is what's triggering it. What are your triggers? And can you feel it coming on? And then what do you do about that?
Yes.
You know, the triggers for me, it's kind of ironic. Flies. Flies trigger me. because of all the times of me being around all the bodies, and and I cannot. I can't stand flies. It drives me nuts.
And it's interesting because it depends. Yes, everybody has a different trigger, and so if you know someone or if you're feeling it, there are services available, and I know that you can reach out to Nef. You can go to cfusa.org, but of course I'll tag Nef in everything. I'll tag Camaraderie Foundation in everything. Tell them the best way other than the website to reach you, Nef, because I think I don't think it, I know it, that the services that you all provide, the Camaraderie Foundation provides, are critical. It saves lives. I think that's it. Saving lives, saving families is the title of our show. And I know for a fact it's happened. I've had so many testimonies on here, veterans that have come on, families of veterans that have come on and said it was life-changing. So best way to reach you.
Now, the best way is to go through the website, the www.cfusa.org, and go fill out the applications there. Some of the things that are really unique about us is that we can, if everything is going, all the paperwork gets done and everybody does what they need to do, within 24 to 48 hours, we can have them in with a counselor.
Wow.
And we have an 89% success rate. So wow. It's the industry standard is around 50%.
Yeah.
So we're doing really well. But we do that by removing all the barriers to successful completion of the program. So when you put in an application, we let you choose the type of therapy you want. We don't tell you, well, here's our therapy and this is what you get, and you take it or leave it. And then we let you choose the counselors, because we'll give you 2 or 3 close to your home and say, here's a couple of them, take a look at them, interview them, see if you like them. Whichever one you like, let us know. And then we issue the letter to them, tell them to go ahead and treat the client or the family. And so you develop that rapport with that counselor, so you're more prone to complete the program.
Yes.
And then we monitor every time they go to a session. We do a before and after session survey to get a feel for how they're doing. And so if we see a spike all of a sudden in the survey, we know something's wrong. And so it could be something as simple as, somebody cut them off on I-4, on their way to their appointment. Yeah, that would do it for me. So then we say, oh, okay, that's what, we'll call them and ask them. And so, oh yeah, I was doing fine till that guy cut me off, came all the way across all the lanes to exit in front of me. But I'm okay. And so we'll just write that off. But if we find out that they've actually lost that rapport with their counselor, then we'll issue them another counselor and they can continue on. We don't say, well, you know what, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to stick with this one, or you've used the sessions we gave you and you're done. Yes. So our goal is to save lives, save families, and that's what we will do.
No man or woman left behind. All right. Nef Rodriguez, Camaraderie Foundation, cfusa.org. God bless you, my friend. I'm just appreciate everything that you all do. You do for the community. You do for our heroes, as far as I'm concerned, and their families. Thank you, my friend. It's PTSD Awareness Month. Educate yourselves, and then go to cfusa.org and learn more. We'll be back, guys. Thanks, Nef, so much, my friend.
Thank you. Take care, brother.
You too, brother.